I think it's just an act of humiliation. When I see this, I really do. You're talking about taking a very powerful institution, which was filled with very strong white men who were set to protect the nation, and you've replaced it. You've completely inverted it with this joke.
Yeah.
And it is an act of humiliation. It's to tell white men that they are no longer the protectors of the nation. They're no longer the strong fist of this country, and they are being replaced, and it is obvious.
Yeah.
And I just, when I see stuff like this, it's just like it really reinforces the fact that we live in a clown world. It's just a joke. Like, does anybody in China, if they saw this, would they take it seriously? Like, what would they think of the American military? Or like, what would they think about anybody that is set to protect the nation in this picture? Like, are you really taking this seriously? First off, you have women. Well, what are women even doing there?
Exactly.
I don't understand.
Exactly.
Listen, I'm married to a misogynist, so I get it. But he's just like, Jill, like, you know, he'll use me as an example, and he'll be like, look at you. Like, you know, I love you. You're my wife. But like, I can't really take you serious. Like, you're just this little thing that I could like throw across the room. Like, you know, he's like, are you really going to be on the front lines? No. And also, like, why would you want to as a woman? Why? I don't understand this. I guess it's just like one of these welfare military jobs, right? They sign up for this, and then the government just gives them grants and gives them money for being in this program. Like all government jobs are just like pseudo welfare jobs for women. Like, that's what I honestly think.
Yeah. Very, very, very well said. Once again, definitely going to be having you back more often, Jill. This is so true. This is abject white erasure. This is anti-whiteism taken to its conclusion, and under the monikers of that objective of white erasure, diversity and equity. Both of those things mean no white people, no, and this is the first step. In many cases, you have the getting rid of the white people and the transformation of the institutions. So this, of course, was the most prestigious military institute in the United States, and turned out men like General Robert E. Lee and many other magnificent heroes throughout the history of this country. And now it has, because of anti-whiteism, white mores, white standards, white norms, they attack those with anti-whiteism. The anti-whites go after all of those things. You have to change to be accommodating. You have to feel white guilt. And because white people are feeling white guilt, which they shouldn't be doing, because they feel white guilt, they make these endless concessions, one after the other, and they finally let females in there. And then it went from being, well, she can be in if she can, female can be in if she can qualify, if she can do the job, to females have to be allowed in at certain percentages, which mean that males have to be discriminated against. And then it goes a step further, of course, because it's not just females, it's non-white females and non-white males, which means that white males, particularly up until increasingly recently, were the primary target of that persecution and discrimination, even from an institution. And now here's the thing, Jill. We built West Point. We create United States. We create Canada. We built West Point. We filled its libraries with the information, with the knowledge. We built those classrooms. We built those halls of genius. We created those customs for heroism and gallantry and glory. And now we've been white guilted out of all of it. And just like you see everywhere else across the West, they turn right around and they say, you haven't shared it all. You haven't turned it all over to us quickly enough. And so this is, you're right. This is like the humiliation of the rest of us. And this began, in fact, I was thinking about this, 1995 is where in South Carolina, the Citadel was, they allowed females into the Citadel. And there was this test they had to go through where I think it was at the very end in order to graduate. And if you couldn't do this physically taxing course, then you couldn't graduate. And at the very end of it, there was this prodigious hill that they would soak with water so that it was muddy. And at the very end, where there was nothing left in the tank, these young, fit men would have to climb this hill. and the female, that was Shannon or something was her name, they there was no way this like chubby female was going to be able to get through this course and climb this hill at the end. What ended up happening was 2 white males dragged her semi-conscious chubby body up the hill so that she could pass. And how is that going to play out in the real world competition with other countries around the world, whether it's corporate and then especially militarily? How's that going to play out when every man's got to be able to carry his own plus something else, when you have guys dragging the tubby girl behind them so that she can cross the finish line too? It's absolutely despicable.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, it puts these men at risk, right? It puts them in danger. I think the whole thing is ludicrous. I mean, how can you not look at a picture like that and not laugh? Like, really? Like, you would look at that as like a sketch on SNL, because it's so outrageous and it's so farcical that you can't believe that it's actually real. Like, what do you think China would say about a photo like that? Like, what would an actual military, like Russia, what would they say about a picture like that? They would laugh. They would just say, this is a joke and we're going to overtake the United States. That's what they would say. And then, you'd have all these like women screaming, because that's really all that they're capable of. But my dad was a police officer for over 30 years. And he would say, and he was an ETF officer. So that was like emergency task force stuff. And he was a sniper professionally.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so he would say that, women would try to come onto the ETF and they would fail so miserably because they were just not able to do these physical feats that the men were doing. So what did they do? They lowered the standards so women could, at least have a chance on getting on the tactical unit. And then they would do that sort of transitioned also into policing in general, when they would have to do the physicals. The physicals now are like a joke because they have to, accommodate people that are overweight, and also women who still can't, do these exceptional physical feats. So they've really dumbed the standard down so bad. It's not a 4-minute mile anymore. It's, an hour mile. It's bad. Like, I'm exaggerating, but it is quite bad. And then also what happens is that when you get a woman into these environments, the whole environment changes, because like, now guys can't be guys anymore, right? Nope. Like, everything becomes different. They have to accommodate this female that's there, and men's personalities change. And, and then you also have like these women sleeping with these guys. Like,
that's it. Yep.
Like, that's a lot of trouble there too. So
big time.
Yeah. Like, things get all out of whack, and it's just, to me, I don't understand the drive for women in general to be in these fields. I don't get it. Like, I grew up in a policing family. Okay. So my uncle was a cop. My dad was, my grandfather was. And people would automatically assume with me, oh, Jill's going to be a police officer. And I would laugh in their face. I would be like, I know a lot about policing. I'm never going to do that, ever in a million years. It does not appeal to me whatsoever. And as a feminine woman, I don't really understand the appeal. Like, I just don't get it. Why do you even want to be there? Like, and don't you feel like, as a woman, like, I don't know, for me, like, maybe it's because I'm hyper self-aware, but like, wouldn't you feel like embarrassed almost? Because like, wouldn't you know that like you don't belong there? Like, there are certain facets of policing, don't get me wrong, where women are good, but in terms of like frontline stuff, no. Or ETF, or like, or hold up squad, like real masculine sorts of things where you need strength and like where you need men. I mean, why would a woman want to do that? I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. I really don't understand it. So I've taken us into a different direction. I'm talking.
No, that's absolutely what we're talking about here. I think largely, a lot of these females that want to get into these things, into these different fields, is they want to be there to disrupt and to damage what white people have done. I've never met a woman or heard a woman speak or read what a woman wrote that that was allowed to go into one of these fields that, you know, heretofore women weren't allowed in because they couldn't do the job, and they couldn't meet the standards, etc. I've never once heard them talk about how important our norms and customs and etc. are, and what we've learned from the past handed down to the present, and that we march forward with that. It's always about making something new, and that's the argument of anti-whiteism. Is we're going to make something new. We're going to destroy everything you've done.
Yeah.
We're going to destroy, and how interesting too, that since we know for sure that throughout human history, there had been rulers that tried females in combat because, of course, they would. They want, all that matters to them is their wealth and power. They would try everything. And yet, over time, they found out that it was the males in combat by themselves that offered the greatest chance of success. The same would hold true then for policing and dealing with ne'er-do-wells and etc. And the anti-whites bust into these fields of ours, these sort of the immune cells of our civilization, and disrupt and undermine them, like giving them AIDS, giving them cancer, with putting these people into there. But what you mentioned about the like triangulation in these environments, I can tell you 100% certainty, all over the West, you have police departments, fire departments, and the military wrecked from love triangles and women using males, and males using women in charge to manipulate, to get out of work, to malinger, to persecute other people they don't like. It absolutely disrupts, in my opinion, of course. CNN would probably say otherwise, but it absolutely disrupts everything. And you're completely right. So many cases, women should feel really embarrassed in these environments, and men cannot be like men. Got to be among men to push each other,
of course,
to be more masculine, to get that job done faster. When we can't be who we are, when in fact that has that anti-whites have essentially criminalized, if not stigmatized, being a man, being masculine.
But we
can't achieve anything.
The Black community is allowed to be hyper masculine.
Yes.
You can see it in rap music, right? The only ones that are allowed to talk about sex and violence in music now are Black men through rap music. Like, what happened to rock and roll? Doesn't exist anymore. No. Rock and roll used to be all about sex, drugs, and violence. Now, white men, it's like crooning and crying, all this hipster movement. All of it is very effeminate beta stuff. This is not masculinity from white men. It's not.
It's not. It's so true.
Yeah, like what happened to actual rock music?
Well, thank you for making that point, because so often we come upon conservative types who will try to say, "Oh, it's not a war on white people. It's a war on males," except that all the other males are allowed to be masculine. All the other males are supported. All the other males' concerns have to be addressed. It's just the white males. It's our fathers, our brothers, our sons, etc. They're the ones who have to be persecuted. And boy, if that's not a segue into our next piece of news, we have Jill for another 10 and a half minutes, folks. So enjoy. We'll have her back though.